Good morning everybody, Nick here, and today I have a special video for you guys. I'm sure you guys have all had questions about, what's going on in the economy, what's going to happen, the real estate market. Is there going to be a crash? I know those questions are going around because there's tons of videos on this topic on YouTube right now. So today I wanted to bring something special to you guys. We actually have a local economist named Dr. John Husing coming to the office to do a presentation on his outlook, or his, I guess you could say, what he is going to predict for this year and what's going to happen in the economy. So if you don't know, Dr. John Husing is a research economist who has specialized in the study of Southern California's growing economy since 1964. So this guy knows what he's talking about. Okay, he's produced city and county specific economic development strategies for the region's local government. Okay, with his specific understanding of San Bernardino County and Riverside County, he assists in the Inland Empire Economist Partnership as its chief economist. Okay, so this guy knows what he's talking about. As you can see here behind me, all the chairs are set up. So I'm going to record his presentation and bring this video to you guys so you could see exactly what he has to say about what could happen this year in the economy. Stay tuned and do not miss this one. Watch it all the way through. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And if this video helps you at all, like it. And if this is your first time here, consider subscribing. All right, guys, we'll see you soon.
Working? Yes. Can you hear me back there? Yes. Okay, what you see back there, you need what I used in the jungle, which is binoculars. Well, what you see here is the forecast, and what it's aimed at is the word anxiety. It's gone from everything looked great to everything seems great, but we're a little bit nervous about it. Now, this is a picture of what's going on with employment, number of jobs in the United States going back many, many years. You can see right here the Great Recession. The United States in that period of time lost almost 6% of all its jobs. And of course, in your industry, you felt that recession very clearly. The rest of those bars show positive growth. By the way, the real tall bar, don't get excited about that one. That was hiring census workers. And then you see 4 real negative bars, that was laying them off. But we've been growing ever since then, and altogether we are now up 11.8 million jobs more than we had before the recession. So that's where we sit vis-a-vis 2007. Now that's important because the United States is the ocean we swim in. So if the U.S. is doing well, then the chances are its regions are doing well as well. So that's 8.6%. Carrie, remember 8.6 because I'll forget it. Part of the problem that Carrie said, I've been studying this area a long time. I started studying the Inland Empire when I was a first-year professor at San Bernardino Valley College at the ripe old age of 23. I'm now 77, so do the math. How long I've been working on this thing, but my mind doesn't hold thoughts as well. Now, what's going on with unemployment is a crucial piece of the story. In the U.S., it hit 10.1. It's now down at 3.9, 3.8, 4. It's bouncing around down at that very low level. Now, the way we measure that is willing to work, able to work, and to be unemployed, you don't have a job, but also you went looking for a job when the person doing the survey came to your front door. This is not done with data, it's done by surveys at 60,000 households across the country once a month. Now, that leaves out 9, so almost 1 out of every 5 people was in either unemployed narrow definition or by that wider definition. It's now down to 7.5. Now, the important thing are these red lines, because you'll notice the 3.9 is about as low as we've ever seen unemployment. Also, the 7.5 is about as low as we ever see what we call U6, the bigger definition. So for all intents and purposes, this economy is at full employment. I'll show you the local unemployment rate for the Inland Empire in a while, but it's very, very, very good. So this is about as good as it gets. Now there's a bit of a problem with that. If you stop and think for a moment, let's talk about driving a car, and I actually did this. I had an M6 BMW for a while, and I was blasting along San Mateo Canyon south of Beaumont. I had it in 4th gear. I had paddle shifting. I revved it up, and I was going 136, and I forgot to shift, and then I floored it again. Now, if it's at red line and you floor a car, what happens? You throw a rock. You blow up the engine. Well, I didn't blow up the engine because I had to slow down because I was running out of space. By the way, I didn't see anybody on the road when I did this. There was a guy walking his dog, and when I went by them, I think they spun. By the way, I didn't give that fact when I was giving a speech when the police chief of Beaumont was in the audience. Now, the fact is the U.S. economy with these unemployment rates is at red line. It is going about as fast as it can go. And it's been at this level now for quite a while. Here's the problem. The President and the Congress decided to have a large tax cut. Economically, that is like stepping on the accelerator when you're at red line. If it's an engine, you blow it up. If it's an economy, you set off inflation. And that has been the great worry all of this year by the Federal Reserve, which in your business has an awful lot to do with interest rates. And so as a consequence of that, we've been quite worried about prices and inflation. In California, we have seen heavy inflation, all the way up to 3.6 in the most recent numbers. So the recent number was in December. We didn't get the January number because the people who do this aren't working right now because of the government shutdown. What I personally consider a piece of idiocy. I might add, you will see political comments in my way of talking. Sorry about that, but I did used to run political campaigns for a living. So that sort of jumps out. I ran campaigns for 20 years intensively when Willie Brown was Speaker of the California Assembly. Obviously, I was on the Democratic side. So I confess in advance, that was my point of view. Today, I am a registered independent. I'll be honest, I hate everybody. Now, the national level is at 1.9. So at 1.9, we're not seeing the inflation we're worried about. You're getting it in California, largely due to housing prices, which, as you know, too well have gone up relatively fast. So we haven't seen it, but we have seen rates on the slope of tending to go up until very recently where they came down a little bit. A week ago, the 30-year mortgage was at 4.48, roughly 4.5 in that area. It had bounced off 5. And then the 10-year bond, and you'll notice these graphs move together almost like they're in lockstep. The 10-year bond sets the 30-year mortgage rate. And it's down now to 2.69. It had bounced off 3. So Right now we're in kind of a cooling period. The problem that we face was the Fed had indicated originally 3 more rate increases in 2019. They've now come back with 2 more increases in 2019, and the most recent was nothing until June and maybe nothing in 2019, because they're getting worried about a lot of very negative news that we're hearing about the economy. The world economy is clearly slowing down, whereas the U.S. is doing fine. Also, the kinds of things that Trump is doing with China in trade is worrisome. And then along with that has been Fed policy and what they're doing. Now, this is the yield curve. You've probably heard a little bit about it. Let me explain. These bars represent interest rates that are charged for various securities for lengths of time. The shortest over here is 6 months. The longest is 30 years. Now this curve is normally sloped like that. Why? Because the longer you're lending money for, the more risk you're taking, the more you're worried about what's the future look like, and as a consequence you want more money if you're going to lend it for a long time than for a short time. Now put yourself in the position of a banker. What does a bank do really when you think about it? They take your money and they may pay you a short-term interest rate for a savings account. They may give you a 1-year, a 2-year, a 3-year certificate of deposit. So they're taking money that they're paying short-term rates, and then they're loaning it to businesses for 5 years, to corporations maybe for 10, in real estate for maybe 30. So if you're a bank, the difference between these short rates and long rates are where you make your money. That interest rate difference. Now, here's the problem. That red line connects the 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, and 5-year. I'll read the numbers. 1 year, 259. 2 years, you would expect it to go up. 254. 3 years. Oh, sorry, 2 years was 256. 3 years, 254. 5 years, 256, the same as 1 year. You're a bank, there's no margin. Why would you make loans for 5 years if what you're paying for money is the same as what you're earning when you go out and make a loan? Let's go out to 7 and then to 10. It's at 274. And then if we go out to 30, it's at 306. The key part of this is between 2 years and 10 years. There is 0.18% difference. Not 18%, 0.18. 18 basis points. That's not enough for 10-year loans to be profitable. So what will bankers start doing when this is going on? They will start holding back on lending because they really can't afford to do much lending with that kind of a yield curve. If it inverts, as it is done down in these very low rates where it is upside down, the fact is they lose money, or certainly don't make any money on what they're doing. That forecasts recession. How soon? About 18 months after this happens. The last 6 times this has happened, we've had a recession. Now, when was the last time? You're going to love this. The last time it inverted was 2007. Within 18 months, where were we? We were in trouble. Those of you who are very young, you didn't have to worry about it. Anybody in this room that's been in this business for a while remembers that period. So, are we going to have a recession? The likelihood of a 2020 recession has gotten higher. Now, does that guarantee it? No. First of all, the Fed, which raises these lower rates, because they're tied closely to the Fed has backed off. Probably won't raise rates. Why is the long term so low? Well, if any of you watch Fox Business, or if you watch CNBC, or if you watch Bloomberg to get your news, an awful lot of business news has constantly lately been negative. And that negative environment, together with the negative political environment, has really got people worried. Ergo, these rates are reflecting being scared. And so that's a bit of what's going on here. So hopefully we'll get out of this cycle and you won't have a recession in 2020. But it is a concern that if I'm in the business, that's a thing that's in my mind now in terms of how I plan out my short-term future. Now, that's the U.S. environment. Right now, fabulous. But, as I said, there are concerns going forward. Not 2019 so much, it's 2020 that ends up being the place where we worry. Now, this is California. Again, California lost a lot of jobs. The country lost 5.6% of its jobs. California lost 7.4%. So we got hammered worse than the country. Now, we're now up to where we have 1.7 million more jobs than we had in 07. We're 11.0% higher than 07. Now, what did the number?
8.6.
8.6 country over 07, state 11. California has outperformed the United States. So hooray for us. That means our environment in California is even stronger for the economy than what's been going on in the country. Now, switching down, and the rest of what I have to say is about your market. Your market is the Inland Empire. How many people live in the Inland Empire? 4.6 million. Now, if we were a state, and I'd like to cut it off and form one so I could run for Senate, but if we were a state, 25 of the 50 states would have fewer people than we do. Half of them. 2 states behind us is the state of Oregon. Oregon has almost 500,000 people less than our 2 counties. That shows you how big California is, but it also shows you that any issues in the Inland Empire are really state-level issues without a state government. Unfortunately, our government is located in Northern California, which some of us would like to hack off and send into the sea. Now, that's where it is now, 4.6. This is the forecast of population growth. The Inland Empire, 2018 to 2045. I hope you all enjoy 2045. At 77 years old, I plan on being dead. But we're expected to add one. By the way, my wife told me when I get to 90, I'm dead anyway. No chance over that. 1.5 million more jobs will be added, or no, people. 1.5 million people will be added here. You think you have trouble moving around now? Add another 1.5 million people. That's why there's nowhere else to put them in Southern California. They have to come here. Now, just to put that in context, LA County, the monster, is only expected to add 893,000. We're almost double that. And these are forecasts from the state. But look at this. 1.1 million more people added altogether in San Diego, plus Orange, plus Ventura, plus Imperial. So essentially all the rest of Southern California will add altogether roughly 400,000 fewer people than our two counties. If you can't make money in real estate in that environment over the long haul, go get a job. It'll take us up to 6.1 million people, which is a heck of a lot of people. I mean, that's starting to sound like LA County when you're up to 6.1 million people. Household income here is a bit of a problem. The median income in 2017 was $62,303. That was less than LA, which was the next lowest, at 65. Then there's San Diego at 76. Orange is up at 86. So in effect, our income levels are lower here. But we have an advantage, at least compared to LA, and that is our housing is cheaper. If we take out housing costs, we're still at 62,303, but LA County is now below us because their housing costs are higher than ours. If we take housing costs, the differential between us and the coast, take that differential out, which you save by being here, we're at 62. San Diego's at 68. We're closing in on San Diego. So we're better off because of the housing costs, certainly compared to LA. Now, our economy has been a powerhouse. The data for the 12 months of 2018, the preliminary data, has come in, and we're up 44,468 jobs over a year ago. Now, altogether, from 2011, when the economy turned positive, through 2018, we've added 344,700 jobs out here. That is a huge increase. Where are we compared to 07? We're at 15.6 compared to 11.0 for the state and compared to 8.6 for the country. So we're way above. We're double the level for the country almost, and we're well above what went on in the state. So this area has been a job engine. Now, I don't like to give a speech talking about the future without confessing what I said at this time a year ago. What did I say? We had added 45,000 jobs. How are we? 44,458. I'll take it. It's pretty close. I said up 3.1. So far it says 3.0. I said unemployment 4.7. It's done better, 4.2. But I have a hope. And the hope is all the numbers for 2018 are revised in March. And the last 3 months of 2018, the data went like this. It was going along, going along, going along, and then it goes over a cliff. That happens every year. They revised the data to a very precise number in March, and I have a feeling it may exceed my 44. I hope so. I'd like it to just be 45. By the way this is done, I have a tall, conical-shaped hat. I put on a mask, and I throw a dart at a target, and that's my forecast. Actually, there's some science here. Now, what about job quality? This is a crucial issue for our region. If you look at the state, jobs paying $60,000 and above, 26.5% of all new state jobs were paying $60,000 and above. What about here? 10.9. So nowhere's near that for those higher paying jobs, higher skilled jobs compared to the state. Now if we look at white collar jobs that are moderate paying, what we find there is 6.7 in the state, 8.6 here. Then we get to blue collar, moderate paying. Moderate paying is 45 to 60, in that range, which does get families to the middle class. How have we done there? The state, 21.5. We're at 39.7, way above the state. We have fundamentally, and you all know this, essentially a working stiffs economy. Blue collar, technical kinds of jobs. Now, the thing that nobody tends to know in this state is if we look at the bottom, the poor paying jobs, the share in the state, 45.3, the stay here, state of the share here, 40.7. So we're 5% better than the state at the low end. Essentially what California has done is hollow out the middle of its economy by putting so much pressure on manufacturing, construction, and logistics. Those are the three blue-collar jobs, and almost all of the state policies try to squash those because of air quality concerns, without ever saying, excuse me, that says to the lower educated part of our population, we don't care if you ever get to the middle class. We have a concern for air quality, and it trumps everything. Well, with all due respect, if you're rich, that's fine. You know, if you can go buy a Tesla, the fact that they want all electric cars is great. But the fact of the matter is, our policies are tilted towards the wealthy in this state. And what's interesting is who's tilted it? Democratic Party. That's why I'm a registered independent. I don't know who those people are. I hate them. Now, how have we done in terms of jobs compared to other metro areas? This last year so far, we see LA County up about 62,000. We're up 44.4. What about San Diego? 27.2. What about Orange? 16.5. Ventura, 4,900. The fact is, we have almost as many jobs added as San Diego and Orange put together this last year. Only LA, which is 3 times our size. By the way, the previous year, 2017, we added almost the same number of jobs as LA County. So this area is a job engine. Our job growth rate, 3% last year, with who's second place in California? Who cares? The fact is, it's so far behind us, whether it's Silicon Valley, San Francisco, San Mateo, Orange County, LA, forget it. This is the area that is the fastest growing in job growth. Our unemployment rates, if you look at that circle, the red on top was all the way up to almost 15% unemployment in the narrow definition here, whereas the US, it was 10. What's going on now? We're at roughly 4 in December. The 4.2 is the average of the whole year, 4.0 in December. The US, similar numbers, December, 3.7. So we've effectively gotten back to where it used to be back in the earlier years, from that crazy period when we said to the real estate industry, we're going to make you all poor. Now, we do have a couple of problems. One of those is poverty. And the one thing that helps poverty is job growth. So most recently, for children under the age of 18, 19.3% of our children were living below the poverty line, almost 1 out of 5. However, it was 23.5 the prior year in 17. So as the economy has taken off, poverty has dipped, which is the good news. For all people, 14.5% in 2017, which is the most recent data. The previous year, 16.4. So it really looks good on seeing poverty going down. We're now behind LA County, or better off than LA County, both for children and for everybody. Our most difficult problem, and the reason we tend to have a blue-collar economy, is the share of our population that is high school or less education. It is 45.7 in 2017, most recent data available. It was 46.3 in 2016, so it has come down a bit. Good news. If we look at AA and above, this is our real problem area. We were at 29.8. We're competing for jobs needing AAs, BAs, and above against LA, which was at 39. Orange, it's 48. San Diego, it's 47. We're out of the game. We don't have the educated labor force. It has improved in 2016. Whoops, sorry. In 2016, it was 29.3. Now, I'm going to take you into the future. This is a rocket headed for the moon. On the rocket is a payroll. Now, it is a payroll for people who are gold miners on the moon. We've discovered moon. We've discovered the moon. We've discovered gold on the moon, and we have miners up there digging it up. So the payroll comes to them. Now, there's no economy there except for the miners. But what do the miners need? Well, one of the things they need is food. So we open up a restaurant on the moon for the miners. Now, the people working in the restaurant, the same money that came to the miners is going through that restaurant. It's not different money. What drives the economy is what brings the money, in this case, the gold mine. Now, what else do miners need? Well, we have the Moon nightclub. Now, the money going to people at the Moon nightclub is the same money that was delivered to the miners being respent in the local Moon economy. I might add, by the way, I used to run a casino in Nevada for a couple of years. You can imagine what the Moon nightclub was. If you can't, talk to me afterwards. Now, what are our gold mines in the Inland Empire? What brings the money? First of all, logistics and distribution. Now stop and think. Woman goes to work at Amazon, takes a check home, goes to have her hair done. The money going to her hairstylist is the same money that was brought by Amazon or any other logistics company. Her husband goes to Home Depot to get some materials to build a patio in the back of the house. The money going to Home Depot is the same money that came to her from Amazon. No Amazon, no money going to Home Depot or to the hairstylist. What else plays that role? Healthcare, because almost all the money going to healthcare comes from outside the area through Medicare, Medicaid, insurance, etc. What else? Construction. Why? Because most construction money comes out of banks, and they're tied into the national money market. What about next? Manufacturing. They sell nationally or worldwide. And then high technology companies, biotech, or information processing, all of that sort of stuff. Those are our gold miners. It is not the top of this chart. If you want to know what drives an economy, don't talk to me about retail. Don't talk to me about what's going on with people mowing your lawn. The economy is driven by those sectors that bring the money. Now, let's look at them one at a time. Healthcare. Between 2011 and 2018, so that period of time from the recovery through last year, 9.6% of all our jobs, median income, $62,363. Half make more than that, half makes, not the average, it's the number in the middle. Take everybody, line them up, cut it in half, the number half above, half below, 32. Now, what's driving this? The most important fact has been the Affordable Care Act. Before the Affordable Care Act, we had 751,000 people with no health care. We now have 302,141. It has dropped 60%. Two effects. One, people have health care who didn't have it before, but also there's more demand for people to work in the healthcare sector because there's so many more people working there. It's gone from 28.8% without health care down to only 11.3%. Now, we have in California 28.6 people for each healthcare worker. That's how many they each has to serve. In the Inland Empire, it's 33.5, or 26% more people. Now, how do you know this? Call up your GP and ask for an appointment. What's the answer? Oh, can you get here in May? The fact is, the system, because we have a larger share of people, or a number of people for every healthcare worker, we need to expand. And that's the other pressure on the sector. Now, I had forecast at this time last year 3,500 more jobs in healthcare. So far, it's coming in at 1,800, not 35, despite what I just said about the pressures on the sector. What's going on? Talk to the president, talk to the Republicans in Congress, talk to the judge in Texas, all of whom are trying to tear apart the Affordable Care Act. If you run a hospital or a medical center, or if you run a senior home, you don't know what your revenues are going to be, because we keep messing around with it. As a result, they've all pulled back, and they aren't hiring because they don't know how much money is going to be coming in. So what I think about 2019, I think it'll be slightly stronger than the 1,800 this next year. Exactly what? I don't know, because I don't know if the 1,800 is right till I get the revised data in March. So you want to hear the actual detailed forecast, talk to me after the first Tuesday in March. Now, logistics. What's going on here? Whoops. I hit it. It's behind here. All right. How many did this sector add? 2011 to 2018, 82,000 jobs. 82,000 in that one sector. That is 23.5% of all the jobs added. Now remember, it's a gold mine. So 23.5 plus the hairstylists and the people in retail and the people cutting lawns and all the population serving sectors that don't drive the economy but just see those same dollars being recycled. So it's probably about a third of all our jobs in the growth have come from that one sector. We didn't have this coming out of the recession immediately. It wasn't going on in 07 at the level it is now. Without the sector, we'd probably still be in a recession. It's what got us out. Now, median pay, $47,900. Looking at over here, this last year in January, February, and March, pay for somebody coming out of high school, no background at all, going to work in logistics, driving a truck, working on the line, whatever, was $12.84. That has gone up as the year's gone on. For instance, if you're going to work for Amazon, where there's now 20,000 of those 80,000 were in Amazon by itself. It's now $15 an hour in Amazon. Well, the others have had to move up to keep up with Amazon because the unemployment rate's so low, they're having trouble getting workers. So it's pushing that floor up. Here in the center is what was going on for all workers. People who are short-term, on-the-job training only, no education outside of high school or less, $15.67 an hour. Moderate term, which means a little over 5 years in the sector, it jumps to 25. 18 is the key number. You need to get over 18 to get people to the middle class. For the whole sector, as I said, what's going on for all workers, the average is 23.41. 23.41 allows people to get to the middle class. Now, why is this sector growing? Let me ask all of you a question, and be honest. Who didn't buy something online in 2018? Raise your hand. Nobody. If you don't like all those trucks out there, it's your fault. If you don't like it, quit buying online, because that's what's driving our economy now. It was at 0.6% of all sales in the early 2000s. It's now up to almost 10% of all sales. How fast is it growing? 14.5% to 15.5% compounded. Now you guys all deal with compounding because dealing with mortgages and stuff. How would you like your 401k to be going up 14.5% to 15.5% on automatic pilot? I sure the hell would. So you're seeing here a sector that is just exploding. And it's going to get up to 20% of all sales. Why? Simply because of the, go follow a millennial around in a store. What do? They look at something, they look, how can I get it cheaper? Online. And that ultimately is what's taking place. It's also going to be a good thing for this region in a recession, because in a recession, people are looking for deals even more. So having that sector here will help us more than other parts of the country. So it's a good thing for us. The other thing driving this sector is, in fact, imports through the ports of LA and Long Beach. Like it or not, big ships keep going into San Pedro Bay, going to, with containers, a lot of it from China, huge amounts from all of Asia, 9.0 million loaded 20-foot equivalent containers. Now what is that? Look at a train. You got containers on it. Those are all two 20-foot containers because they're 40 feet long now. They were 20 feet when they started measuring this. So that's the measure. 9 million is an all-time record. Last year at 8.6, it was an all-time record. Prior to that, it was 06 when the China took off. It peaked and then the recession thing slowed. We've now built up to record levels. Exported containers are basically flat, so they don't really drive this. It's the imports that we handle in these big facilities. So, for those of you that are in the real estate business, trying to sell houses, probably ought to look at industrial. How many net square feet of industrial was leased to new companies coming here? Answer, 22 million square feet in the 12 months ended in December. 22 million square feet. Who's second place? Again, who cares? The vacancy rate, 3.7. So there's not a lot of space left. So as a result, we're building a lot. Only 73% of all the industrial construction in Southern California is in the Inland Empire. Who's second? Who cares? It's LA County at 19. The lease rates have gone up 31.3% above '07, before the recession. So this is a hot market, and the prices are going up on the facilities. Related to this is what's going on in Ontario. Now, the fact is, some of you will remember, LA owned Ontario Airport and governed it through the LA World Airport, which was had a board and an executive director, and they gutted Ontario, basically almost put it out of business. From '07 to the bottom was 2010, but still it wasn't doing much as early as 2016. So Ontario sent a lawsuit backed by the county to LA. I was giving a speech like this to an audience like this, not knowing there was a reporter in the room. And I just off the top of my head said, because I happen to believe it, that the LA World Airport's board ought to burn in hell. That made its way into the LA Times. I have done no work in the city of LA since. Now, what is going on at Ontario in terms of cargo? It set a record last year, and this year it's 16.1% over that record. So it's firing on all cylinders. And those numbers are going to take off even more, because that's with UPS having their headquarters there. FedEx's headquarters is at LAX. They are moving it to Ontario. So you'll see that even more take off. Part of the problem that those companies are getting, FedEx, Amazon, UPS, is the length of time it takes to get from Ontario to San Bernardino to the facilities down at former Norton Air Force Base. So now FedEx and UPS have 5 flights a day at San Bernardino Airport, and Amazon is putting 5 a day into March. So they're moving that way as well. So this is going to keep going. Part of the issue that we face here is even this area is running out of space. How many more million square foot facilities? Now, 52 flat acres is required for a 1 million square foot facility. If everything went in million square feet chunks, we have enough room for 157 more facilities. If you include both deserts, so the low desert in Coachella, the high desert up Victor Valley, if you include those, we could build 157, plus Moreno Valley out by Skechers, which is a hotbed bed of anti-logistics activity in the extreme. Now, if you take out the deserts and you take out Moreno Valley, we only have room for 35 more. That would be 35 million square feet. Remember how many square feet I just said we did? That's a year and a half's worth. So we really need those areas to become part of the market. Now, I said this year, 10,200 jobs out of logistics. It's come in at 11,000. I think it'll be a little weaker because we're now hearing from the developers they're having trouble permitting new facilities, in part because of the craziness of some folks who don't want to see any more of these built, which essentially means they don't want people to get jobs with a median income of $47,000. When I get attacked by them, which, by the way, I won't show you my back, but it's solid bruises. The fact of the matter is they can't answer a single question. What would you replace it with to get people to the middle class when it's our enormous competitive advantage? Manufacturing. Manufacturing only added 14,242 jobs. Nothing like what you saw in logistics. Good pay, 54.8, so it's again solid, gets people to the middle class. The problem is California's regulators, with the permission and actually the incitement of the state legislature, has put in place rules that are so bad that manufacturers are leaving the state, or more importantly, not coming. Few leave, but a lot say no. The United States has added 1.2 million manufacturing jobs from January 2011 through November of 2018. 1.2 million. How did California do? 67,000. Anybody that says to you, we have a green manufacturing revolution underway, is either a propagandist, a liar, or stupid. Because that's not what the data say. I brought this up to the Brown administration, and all I wanted to talk about was what was going on in the coastal counties, which doesn't help us. The blue bars up here are the way in which the U.S. has grown. The red, California, you see a dip there that's sort of recovered a little bit of late. Now this shows you the effect of legislation on a sector. These are the cost of industrial electricity to manufacturers in California and the rest of the area. I don't have California on here right now. Colorado, 7.24 cents per kilowatt hour. Washington, the best, 4.37. Now, there's California. You are a manufacturer. You're considering coming to California, and you are the economic development director of Phoenix, Las Vegas, or Boulder City. And you see this chart, here's what you can say. If you're in Boulder, Colorado we're 74.8% above Colorado. Phoenix, we're 83.5% above Arizona. Las Vegas, we're 135% above Las Vegas. Now, we just lost the 5th largest company doing business in California to Texas this week. We also lost the guy that is going to have passengers going up into space. He's now moved from Long Beach Airport to Texas. These kinds of charts have an effect. Now, there is one piece of good news in manufacturing. Now, I have somewhat of a hazy recollection of the 1970s. Brown up here is medical marijuana, flat. Green is marijuana for fun. And marijuana for fun is expected to explode. I might say, by way of revelation, I am heavily invested in that sector. Not for use, but for profit. Now, how many manufacturing jobs did I anticipate? 200. What did we get? 750. So I missed it.
So how many money went?
How many marijuana? I don't know. I think it'll be weaker than 750 this year, but even 750, come on. We have 1.5 million jobs in this economy, and manufacturer only able to add 750. It's an issue for us. Now, construction. Construction is our second biggest sector. where logistics was up 81, construction is up 41.6, 12.1% of our jobs. Now, good paying sector, actually even it's as good as manufacturing. Now, this is not the chart you want to see. If I'm a real estate agent, I hate this chart because this is seasonally adjusted growth in new and existing home sales. And what you see is essentially a flat line, which has actually dipped the last 3 quarters. We don't like that. No, this is seasonally adjusted. So you take out summer, spring, winter, fall, all of that. So starting in March, it's been retreating a little, but it's never been that strong. So that's a difficulty. Prices obviously have gone sky high. They peaked in new homes at 437.2. They're now at 457.2. They've taken off. They're 4.6% higher than 07, or at the peak, which was, I'm sorry, was 06 was the peak. Now that's new homes. Existing homes, they peaked at 389. They're back to 350, not all the way back. They're still 10% below where they were. Now, here's a piece of a problem for new home developers. Median price, half above, half below, of new homes, 457. In 2019, FHA will only go to 431. So over half the new homes won't qualify for FHA, low down payment, all the rest of that. Similarly with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they're too low. If you go across the county line to either Orange or San Diego or to LA, they can go all the way to 726. This has been a historic problem. Again, it shows you how asinine Washington, D.C. is. I have no political opinion. Now, this is why this area grows. The middle-priced house in the Inland Empire, $368,000. It's less in San Bernardino, more in Riverside. But look at LA, San Diego, and Orange. 619, 620, and 797. Now think of that number. Half the homes in Orange County above 797. The other half below that. But the fact is, who can afford that? Now the result of that is people, particularly the marginally educated, can't afford to live in the coastal counties. And the result is they can save $251 coming from LA to the Inland Empire, $252 on the price coming from San Diego, and only, only $429 coming out of Orange County. Ergo, people go to Corona. People go to Rancho Cucamonga, to Chino Hills, to East Vale, to Chino, to South Ontario, because of these charts. They, in the lower end of the market, they go to Beaumont, they go to Menifee, they go to Moreno Valley, they go over to Hemet. That's what drives the population growth here, and frankly always has. I first made this chart in 1988, so you can see how long I've been watching this. Now, apartment living isn't all that much cheaper. Middle-priced Inland Empire home, $1,487. San Diego, $1978. Ventura and 1983, Orange County, 2,035, LA, 2,267. The data for this shows that in 2017, what was going on was 57% of renters were putting more than 30% of their income into housing in apartments. And as you know, that's a kind of a standard we try and get to. More than 57% in each one of these counties. This area versus the coastal counties. Now, I anticipated construction adding 7,500. They added 4,300. What do I expect? About the same. So we're not seeing as much construction. Now remember, construction isn't just houses. First of all, it's the large facilities, and there's a lot of that going on. And then the other big piece is infrastructure. White collar, moderate paying jobs, two sectors, finance, insurance, and real estate. So you guys, as well as K through 12. These sectors added 8.6% of our jobs. Median pay, 57,109. Good, solid pay in this group of sectors. Now, I had forecasted 5,000 more jobs. It came in at 6,000, but it wasn't so much the finance piece, it was the K through 12 piece that really grew. What do I expect to see? About the same. Now, there's also the higher paying sectors. These are a group of entrepreneurs. Esri in Redlands with Jack Dangerman. Bourne's Electronics in Riverside. Sorensen Engineering, which is a little company hidden in Yucaipa. SigmaNet, which is a company that works in between people who need software and don't know what they need, but think they need something, and people who design software who don't speak English. They speak software for programming. The people who work in between that are making a lot of money. And this is a company started by Ahmed Adel Al-Khatib. If you don't like immigrants, this guy's employing people making $200,000 a year. And his company is growing like a weed. And I believe he came from Syria. Now, these sectors, professions, management, colleges, mining, utilities, information, and government, all of which are the better paying sectors, 0.5% of job growth. So effectively none, very little. Group, 76,000. Thank you. The government, 63.5. Good paying sectors, but not growing particularly. The problem here, again, goes back to education. 21.4% of our population, adult population, bachelor's and above. Go over to LA, it's 32. Go to Orange County, it's 40. I mean, way above us. So we can't compete so much for those kinds of sectors. The good news, it's gone from 21.0 in 2016 to 21.4 in 2017. Doesn't sound like much, but this is like trying to turn an oil tanker. We're doing a lot of work with educators. We're having some success, but it is really tough. Where are the educated people with the better jobs located? Red on this chart is the Coachella Valley. Yellow, Redlands, Loma Linda. Blue, the west end of the two counties. Green is Southwest Riverside, Temecula, Murrieta. Now what you see here with the sort of purple in there is Orange County, so we had 4 cities higher than that. Loma Linda and Indian Wells were up there. Chino Hills, Rancho Mirage. Below Orange, but above San Diego, Rancho Cucamonga, Eastvale, and Redlands. Below San Diego and above LA, the higher pay or the higher end cities in the Coachella Valley, plus Upland, Big Bear Lake, and then Temecula, Murrieta. Just below LA, Canyon Lake, and Grand Terrace. Office absorption, which is related to the high end of the market, is boring. It's just sort of moseying along. Vacancy rate has gotten much better. It's gone from 24.2 to 9.1. So it's improved a lot. This market is being hurt by e-commerce the same way that retail is. Why e-commerce? Because a lot of the paperwork for you can now be done online. You don't have to go to an escrow office, an insurance office. If you're your accountant, my accountant is now in Pasadena. My financial advisor is now at Newport Beach. They moved there from here because they didn't have to be close to their clients anymore. So that's really hurt the office market. Office lease rates are almost back, but not quite, to the 07 level, or 2.5% below it. Now, here we get to Ontario Airport, and really a key thing. We need it to grow on the passenger side, the way it's growing on the cargo side. Well, it's up 12.9 last year, which is great. But it only gets us back to the 1988-89 level. Now, what's changed since 88? Well, population has grown 2.4 million. That's only up 108%. Jobs have added 164,000. That's only up 133.5%. Number of companies, we've added 75,133. That's only up 187%. And LA World Airports couldn't figure out how to keep that airport going at the level that it had achieved. This is why I was right. They should have all burned in hell. Now the forecast here I made last year was 4,000. Came in at 3,200. I think it'll be about the same this year. Finally and lastly, the retail market. Now, I drive by this monster store. What the heck are you going to do with that facility when Sears declares Chapter 7 bankruptcy and they're gone? Because it looks like they're heading that way. And that's e-commerce in action. It's, again, your fault. If you look at that building and it's empty, go thing and hit your back. On the other hand, you do have some that are doing well. That's the second reason I have a picture here. Why? Because Nordstrom at 77, because of Nordstrom's, I'm still having to work. My wife has a personal shopper there. She has very expensive tastes. In-N-Out, because it's the restaurant sector, is our best sector other than the 2 blue-collar sectors in job growth, and it's #1 in California. And then the Mexico Cafe, because usually when I give one of these speeches, I walk out the door and head for a margarita. 40.7% of our jobs are in these low-paying sectors. Median pay, only 32,000. The vacancy rates here are much higher in the Inland Empire, probably because we have more anchor tenants rather than luxury boutique types of shopping. I had forecast 15.4. The fact is, it came in at 17.5. I think it'll be weaker in 2019 because I think generally the economy will be weaker. So I should have brought a tall conical shaped hat and my mask to throw the dart and tell you what I think. Here's what I think. 2018, year to date, we're in at 44. I think it will be higher. 2019, I think will be down between 5 and 10,000 jobs over what we did in 2018 in 2019. 2020, all bets are off. There's a chance of a recession. Now, these data may be useful to you. This is my website. There's a lot of brand new data in here that I just did for this speech because a bunch of numbers came in this week. It'll take my guy about 3 or 4 days to get it online. This is my website.